Welcome to the Mountain Valor podcast. Our guest today is Lindsey Gleason-Reed from the Community Foundation of the New River Valley, or CFNRV. Lindsey joined CFNRV in April 2022 with a strong background in communications and fundraising for mission-driven organizations. Her projects include communication, GiveLocalNRV Giving Day, fundraising, and coordinating workshops for local nonprofit leaders and community members. Prior to her work at the foundation, Lindsey spent more than 8 years at Virginia Tech in Student Affairs Advancement and VT Engage, the Center for Leadership and Service Learning, focusing on communications, storytelling, and graphic design. She began her career at Accion, a global microfinance nonprofit where she worked at the intersection of finance and social impact. Originally from Vermont, Lindsey graduated from Northeastern University in Boston with a bachelor's degree in international affairs and a minor in linguistics. And she spent a semester studying abroad in Accra, Ghana. Lindsey also comes from a military family with a cousin and a brother who made their careers in the Air Force and the Army, respectively, along with several great uncles and grandparents who also served. Welcome to the podcast, Lindsey.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So let's get started. Let's start with your pivot. You spent your career in mission-driven roles from Accion's global microfinance work to student affairs and VT Engage at Virginia Tech, and now the Community Foundation of the New River Valley. What was the moment that led you to transition from those larger and sometimes global platforms to a place-based foundation serving this specific region?
Sure. So love brought me down to the New River Valley, and I had planned to be here for 2 years and then move back up Northeast, but plans changed. That relationship didn't work out. But I really love the area. If you've ever been to Vermont, the New River Valley reminds me a lot of the Green Mountains up there. So it felt like home right away, and just made a lot of wonderful friends and found a lot of meaning in my work that I was doing at Virginia Tech. So this August, it will be 14 years for me that I've been down here. And for me, I had worked at Virginia Tech for a long time. It was coming up on 8 years. And I knew about the foundation because of my work with VT Engage. VT Engage sends students into the community for service opportunities and works on leadership development and all kinds of things. So we had connected that way because the Community Foundation is a very well-respected nonprofit in the region, and they do a lot of work. And now I help do this work to help nonprofit capacity building. They're not a big team. When I was hired, there were just 3 positions. Now we're up to a mighty foursome. Positions there don't come up very often. And I just thought, I've enjoyed the work that I've done at Virginia Tech, but this feels like a very different, it felt like an extension of my work in many ways, but also a different audience of working more directly in the community that I live in. And of course, working with students is so wonderful, but students are also by their very nature transitory. So it's really nice to have those longer term relationships with community partners. Of course, folks move on from their positions, but having that partnership, at least with the organization, is really meaningful to me. And I really enjoy it. I just passed my 4-year anniversary, and I hope they keep me around for a while longer.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations.
Thanks.
At Accion and Virginia Tech, a lot of your work involved telling complex stories in ways that move people to act. Now at CFNRV, you're telling the story of local needs and local generosity. How has your background in fundraising and communications helped you amplify the work of nonprofits and donors here in the New River Valley?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my background has really helped me in is I've seen fundraising done in a lot of different ways and communication done in a lot of different ways because of the good organizations that I've worked for in the past and interactions with others. And you can you can tell when an organization is rolling with their fundraising and communication because the two of them are clicking and working together. And sometimes there's that disconnect. But I feel like what it's helped me do is bring that experience of understanding. I've been there when fundraising has gone wrong and you kind of fall flat on your face, or when a messaging doesn't land. But I've also been there for success. I've also been the person who the last thing I wanted to do was fundraise. Did not want to do it. The only reason why I joined the fundraising team at Accion, other than my parents saying you need a job after college, and I was doing temporary work, but I that the reason why I joined that organization is I wanted to do work on a global level in the nonprofit space, and I wanted to get my foot in the door somewhere. And the only place that they had was a job I applied for in fundraising, and I was so not interested in asking people for money. And I feel like those 4 years transformed that thinking completely for me. I became someone who's like, yep, I'll ask for money. Like it doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore to me. And the reason why is I know what donor dollars can do in an organization. And I think everyone has different experiences levels with different nonprofits. Sometimes you have a really good experience, and other times you make a gift and you're like, where did that money even go? So I understand that's only one tool in a toolbox in terms of what a person can give. People talk all the time about time, talent, and treasure. The time and talent is so vital for organizations. The treasure is important too. And you don't have to be someone who can write a $10,000 check today without checking with anyone. Your $5 combined with other folks' $5, $10, $100 makes a huge difference. So I think that experience early in my career was transformative because it made me realize how important the programs don't happen without the funds. Right. And so seeing how that all works together in a nonprofit really changed my mind on fundraising and has really shaped the trajectory of my career.
Right. And sometimes, doing the thing that you don't want to do, you actually realize, oh, you know what? I'm actually pretty good at this.
Yes.
And maybe I shouldn't have had this fear or this disdain for this particular role. So yeah, absolutely. And having some experience in nonprofits as well. Yeah. Fundraising is definitely important because at some point you've got to continue your mission. And if you don't have the wherewithal to do that, then it makes it very difficult, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been fortunate enough to work with Kat from Mountain Valor since very early on her starting the organization and the process. And she is someone who is very unique in how she thinks strategically about growing this organization and the longevity of it. And so she's such a great model of how to diversify the types of money coming in via companies, via grants, via individual donors. And I think that she's someone to really look at in all the things she's doing with Mountain Valor, but she's just such a great example of how she's thinking about fundraising. She's not just fundraising for today, she's fundraising for what Mountain Valor will be in 5 or 10 years.
Right. Very, very strategic thinker. I will agree with you on that. It's amazing the work that she's done in such a short period of time.
Agreed.
Let's talk a little bit about CNFRV. CNFRV was established in 1994 to serve Floyd, Giles, Montgomery, Pulaski, Wythe, and the city of Radford. For listeners who aren't familiar with community foundations, how do you describe what CFNRV is and why it exists?
Sure. So our organization came about from a small group of committed volunteers, and we talk about the $8 story. They started with $8 in the bank, although I don't know if they actually put it in the bank, but they did an $8 mailing. That was the postage for the mailing that they did, and had started the community foundation. And so what a community foundation is, there are about 900 across the United States, something like 26 in Virginia, and it's a place-based foundation. And the difference we're a public nonprofit, a private nonprofit. And so we're a 501c like all the other nonprofits in our region, or many of them. and we can take donor dollars. But what it is it's not an entity necessarily providing direct services. We work with donors to talk about what their passions and interests are to create specific endowments. And an endowment is a type of giving vehicle that is meant to exist in perpetuity. So for generations to come, the goal is to live off the interest and not the principal of the endowment. So an endowment can be created at our organization for as low as $10,000. And then something like that will give off around $300 a year to either give to give out as a grant. A scholarship is slightly higher. It's a $15,000 minimum to be endowed. But then that money is invested, again, in perpetuity. So we have over 200 of those funds. And we started with $8. We're now over $26 million.
Wow.
And yes. So the growth has been pretty astonishing just in my time at the foundation. And the goal is to keep supporting nonprofits in our community with grants from those funds and then students with scholarships. And it's really fascinating because, we have so many different donors, and behind every fund is a story. Often, but not always, someone will create it in memory of someone who's passed away. That's very common with like a scholarship fund. And so you know that represents something so beautiful to the family of this feels like a meaningful thing we can do to carry on a loved one's name. Other folks establish it while they're living and do their charitable giving through us. Others kind of set it up as a legacy. And anyone who's, sets up a fund now and gives now, it will eventually become a legacy fund where it gives after they're gone. And hopefully that's many, many years from now. So we get the pleasure of working with all these donors. And with all this work, giving out grants to nonprofits, working with students, we get to see a bird's eye view in many ways of everything going on in the New River Valley and see its amazing assets, and then see where there are issue areas that a lot of people are working on. So we do a lot of work to bring people together through networks. We have one around early childhood education and care. We have one around aging and community, and another around food access and food security. And so we help convene groups of folks and work together because there's so many duplicated efforts happening in the region. And sometimes the duplication is necessary. Like, for example, a food pantry in Floyd doesn't necessarily have the resources to serve the entire New River Valley. And so there's a very similar one over in Giles and so forth. But having them talk to one another can help in so many ways. Yeah. So we do a lot of work in that area.
And I'm just curious. Obviously, you have financial advisors who tell you how to invest these funds so that they remain in perpetuity, right? I mean, it's not like, oh, well, let's just put it somewhere and hope that it does something. I mean, that's a very important piece of the community foundation, because otherwise you run out of funds, next year, and you're like, where'd the $26 million go? We had it, now it's all gone, right? So interesting. That's very interesting.
That would be quite the wild ride to spend $26 million in 1 year. I don't know what we'd be doing with that, but yes, no, absolutely. We work with 5 different money managers, including National Bank and Atlantic Union Bank and some others. And so the money is distributed throughout the community that way. They all have a slightly different investment strategy. We set the policy of, we don't want you to go like put everything in crypto. We have it set up in certain percentages. So it's conservative in many ways because we're looking at long-term growth. But just having those experts partner with us alongside us is really, really helpful. Different community foundations do it different ways, but that expertise is so valuable. And then we have an incredible accountant. Her name is Alice Ledford, who keeps track of all of our finances. It's very complex, as you might imagine. And so we have a rock star there. And then we get a full audit every year, because part of managing folks' money is being transparent and making sure that all the nickels and dimes are exactly where we say they are, right? And so we work with Brown Edwards on doing that audit every year that's published on our website. And so we have a team of experts that we work with to make sure all of that money is being invested well and stewarded well.
Excellent. Excellent. Since just distributing your first grant in 1997, CNFRV has awarded millions of dollars to nonprofits and students, as you just said. And in a recent year, you distributed nearly $1 million in grants and scholarships. For a regional foundation, that's a significant lift. What are some of the unique leadership challenges that come with managing many different funds and community priorities at once?
It's really interesting. So I work with an incredible team at the Community Foundation. Jess Wergo has been involved in our work. She's our CEO. She started as a volunteer, so she's been with the organization for 20 years. And then
Wow.
my colleague Laura has been with us, I think, a little bit longer than that. And then my colleague Margaret was hired the year after me. So she and I are the more newbie folks. So you should see the mind meld that Laura and Jess do on some of this stuff. It's this big matchmaking process when it comes to our competitive grant process and our scholarship process. So how it works is, as an example, our scholarship application closes at the end of January. This year we had almost 200 applications. And these are students from all over, and you read one of those applications and you want to give all your money to them. You want to write a check yourself. They're just, you're seeing the personal story and someone reaching up to like better themselves. And for, it's so meaningful to read those stories. But we have a committee of folks who read the applications, they score them, and then those applications are sent out to donors. And the donor funds, sometimes they're super general, and it will be like, anyone from Floyd County who has financial need, I'll support. But then you get into, we want folks from, and this is an example, we don't have a fund quite like this, but from one high school, and they play the clarinet, and they're going to play the clarinet only at one university. And that's a bit of an exaggeration. We don't have it quite that specific, but the more specific you get, the harder it can be to find students. So you have to figure out ways to do that matchmaking, because students, when they are in the application, they'll say, I'm eligible for this fund and I want to apply for that one. And so it's like this big matchmaking of, here are these great students, here are the funds, which student aligns best with each fund. And it's really interesting. And so the donor criteria just really varies from fund to fund. And I think it's really fascinating to see that process unfold. This year we awarded over $200,000 in scholarships.
Wow.
Yeah, to more than 100 students, and we've never funded more than 100 students before. And so it's just this big matchmaking process. And so I think every fund that you add to that adds a new wrinkle. And it makes it really interesting. It's very similar with the grants process. Some are very specific of what they want to fund, some are more general, and both are needed. It's like having both makes our jobs interesting, but also you need those specifics sometimes. Sometimes you are looking for someone really unique with a grant application or a scholarship application. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge of making sure that we're honoring what our donors want. And some of our donors have passed away, so we're carrying on their wishes. Others are still living and are more active in the process, and will send us their recommendations of who they'd love to fund. So I find that really interesting, and it's that big puzzle. But again, it's I'm much more of a newbie, and my colleagues Jess and Margaret, pardon me, Jess and Laura, are the ones who know all the funds back and forth, and they just they have their secret code that they talk in of like, oh yeah, this person would be great for this. It's amazing to watch. They're two incredible people who know so much.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, that's really fascinating, and I mean, $200,000 in scholarship funds. That's actually very fascinating, and I'm assuming they're all local students, correct?
Yes. So over 90% are from here, and the rest are studying here. So a lot of them go to Virginia Tech, Radford. Usually it's more of a local student who go to the community colleges, but yeah, they're all most of them are from here, and it's sometimes we will fund siblings from a family, which is really neat year after year, and just seeing it like our support go through a family, and our scholarships, you can come back and apply the next year. So we've had some students that we supported throughout their entire educational career, and that means a lot. It gives us chills to kind of think about, because our scholarships might not be, they average the minimum we give out now is about $1,000. Some are more, so it's not going to transform their entire educational career necessarily, but we hear time and time again from students that it feels really good to know that there's other people in their corner helping them along the way. And it just makes me think about, it takes a village to bring someone up, and we get to be a small part of that.
Absolutely. And do you fund also like a master's student or a PhD student, or is it mostly undergrad?
Mostly undergraduate. We only have one fund, and it's through that funds graduate work, and that's for vet students at the Virginia Maryland College of Veterinary Medicine. Their class of 1990 came to us maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I'm not quite sure, and said we wanted to set up a scholarship and help pay it forward.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, it's very cool. So you think about that, maybe they've been in their careers or have retired after 30 years, and now they're in a position to maybe give a bit more. So now they're helping fund vet students, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. Let's talk a little bit about Give Local NRV. So, right off the bat, you CFNRV hosts Give Local NRV, and it's become a major initiative in our region. For someone hearing about it for the first time, what is Give Local NRV, and how does it work for nonprofits in the New River Valley?
Sure. So, Giving Day event is something that's become a very common fundraising tactic. If you've graduated from a university, and your university may have a giving day, and you may have received a letter or an email about it. It's become super common. It's also something that a lot of community foundations hosts, and what it is it's a short period of time. It depends on the event. Sometimes it's 12 hours, sometimes it's 48. It can change. Short period of time where you're raising a lot of money in a public way online. How we frame ours is, so the GiveLocalNRV.org website is available all year long for our nonprofit partners that serve the New River Valley to use. They can use it as their primary way for donors to give online. It's free for them to use, for our nonprofits to use. They can run different campaigns, different times of year. There's all kinds of functionality with the website. But what the majority of folks use it for is our Giving Day, which we hold each June. This was started in 2014. And it's kind of bizarre to think about the internet back then, because there weren't a lot of ways to give online. It was possible, but it was not very common. Now, any nonprofit website almost you go to, there's a donate button. That was not the case in 2014. Instagram wasn't even a thing yet. It was just coming online. So different vibe 12 years ago, for better or for worse, we're where we're at now. But it was started because as part of our work to build the capacity of nonprofits, we wanted to give them an easy way for their donors to give online. And it's free. You just have to sign up, and you get a page on the website and a way for donors to give. But with the Giving Day, what we wanted to do there was it is extraordinary how much nonprofit work goes on every day in communities across our country. We work with probably about 200 organizations every year, and that's not even everybody serving the New River Valley. It's pretty wild. And so this is work that is often like not as well known, and doesn't always get the spotlight shown on it. Some of the bigger organizations often do, but any kind of topic area you can think of, animal welfare, environmental stewardship, issues around poverty, the list goes on and on and on, arts and culture, education. You can find anything that you care about that you want to give to on this website.
Okay.
So you can go to the website any time of year to give to these causes, but we're in June now, which is Giving Day season. So every year, how we structure our event is there's an early giving period. So there's a few weeks where people can be fundraising for their work. And then on the giving day itself, it's a 24-hour period where we give out different prizes for reaching certain milestones, and some are random chance. And at the end, we have this grand total. So last year, we raised almost $800,000. And when I say we, that was thousands of donors giving to more than 100 nonprofits in our region. So it's this big community effort to put the spotlight on the power of philanthropy and the essential work that our nonprofits do. And I could talk about it all day because I think it's a fun event to be a part of. And it gives you, if you're looking for some good news, go to that website and see the numbers go up every day, because it just feels good to know these are all great organizations, and your dollars will go very far with these folks.
And so you can go to the website for a donor. You can go to the website. You can find a nonprofit that you might want to donate to, or you could just donate to the community foundation, and then you guys will take care of, hey, who's got the greatest need, or whatever the criteria you use. And then on Giving Day, it's like this is like the super, and that's coming up. We're in June. What day is that Giving Day for this year?
Yes. So it's really giving 24-hour period, but that does not roll off the tongue like Giving Day. So it starts at noon on Wednesday, June 24th, and goes until noon on Thursday, June 25th. We used to go midnight to midnight, but no one wants to be awake at the start or end of it. So the noon to noon is nice because you can celebrate in a different way. And then you can take a nap the afternoon of the 25th. So part of the incentive for organizations participating is the Community Foundation, along with our generous sponsors, which include National Bank of Blacksburg and the Cranwell Family Foundation. We're giving away more than $26,000 in grants and prizes. So that's the grants and prizes. And when we say grants and prizes, it's just kind of all awards. The grants are just worth more. You can only win one of those, and prizes are worth a little bit less. You can win two of those. But those range from $250 all the way up to $1,500. And so this is for reaching certain fundraising milestones with amounts of money raised or number of donors. That can be for the whole event. It could be for a 1-hour period. And then we have a bunch of random chance drawings. So in the early giving period right now, we're pulling 2 golden tickets per week. And what that means is anyone who gave online is entered into a drawing. I'm going to pull donations on Monday. And if I pull the donation that you made this past week, your favorite organization that you gave to will get an extra $250.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's really awesome. Yeah.
It's fun. We love giving out money at the Community Foundation. So this is just an extension.
So this is also important for nonprofits that they need to be part of your organization in order to get this money, and I'm assuming that that's pretty easy for them to sign up, and then I'm assuming you guys do a little bit of due diligence to make sure that they're legitimately a nonprofit or something like that. Is that correct?
For sure. So we work with an organization called Mighty Cause, and they put on almost 100 giving events a year. So they partner with folks with us all across the country. Some states do a giving day, like Colorado as a state does one. I cannot imagine how busy that gets, but they raise something like 20 or 30 million. It's extraordinary. So they work with giving events of all sizes. And so you can do all kinds of really cool stuff on the website. But what we do is we open the sign-up period in March typically, and then it will close a month before the early giving period opens on June 1st. And there is a check that Mighty Cause runs to make sure that the organization registering is real and that they are registered, they have their paperwork up to date with the IRS and that sort of thing. We know most of the organizations who are participating. Sometimes there's some new folks, sometimes there's a completely new organization, and you're like, wait, what is this? And then you read and you're like, this is so cool. So yes, we have that process, and then we have in place a bunch of different trainings that we do with folks so they know kind of how to use the website, the rules of the event. But what this is at its core is fundraising. And what we hope folks look at it as is an event that is part of their whole fundraising plan for the year.
Okay.
And as opposed to like a one-off thing to win some money.
Right.
Organizations that participate year after year, they have trained their donors to expect that they'll participate in this event. Now, will you have it memorized as a donor that that folks will be reaching out to you at this time of year? Not necessarily, but when you're used to it, you'll be like, oh, right, this thing, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you're trained them to expect that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you want to do in general with donors. You don't want to, of course, sometimes there's an emergency and you need to put together a campaign right away and it's, kind of out of the blue, but you want your donors to get used to a regular cadence. A very common one is at the end of the year, because for tax purposes, some donors really like to get the write-off with their donations. And it's also a very generous time of year for many folks who are celebrating different holidays that time of year. So anyway, this is about hopefully making it part of a nonprofit's fundraising calendar. And for us, what that means is you're help building that nonprofit's capacity. Because if it's part of their fundraising calendar, then they're doing work to cultivate their donors and steward their donors. So look for new donors and say thanks to their existing donors and engage them throughout the year. And this is one of the many touch points that you'll have with your donors throughout the year. And what that does is it builds long-term capacity and it helps the financial health of your organization to be sustainable for the future. So that's our goal. And we hear from a number of organizations that that's what it's become for them, which is really exciting. So as wonderful as it is for us to enjoy giving out the prize money during this event, we love to hear the stories of, it's always great when someone's pumped about the prize money. But when you hear the stories of this is part of our year-long plan, that's really meaningful because that's what we want.
So you talked about stories. Is there a particular Giving Day story, maybe a first-time participant or a surprise match or a community rallying around a cause that really captures what Give Local NRV is all about?
There are so many stories. It's hard to pick one. So it was really exciting. We celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Giving Day in 2023, and we had done some additional publicity and worked with different partners, some marketing partners who are friends of ours, and then for some reason the fundraising was just kind of going wild. Our nonprofits just got a few surprise, really large gifts. And we knew going into the Giving Day that it was going to be a really big year because the Community Foundation team members get to see the data in the back end of the system. And we're like, wow, we've raised a lot of money. And again, it's thousands of folks, right? It's not our team. We, of course, help, but it's a community effort, right?
You got to be there in order for this to happen, right?
True. Yes. But definitely using the collective we there because it's extraordinary how many people are involved. And we went over $900,000. The most we had ever raised was maybe $525, which was a lot, right? But we had this huge jump, and I think we ended at $921,000 that year. And there are so many stories that helped that happen. And it was just really exciting to see. And we had actually a camera crew with us because we were shooting an episode of Buzz for Good, which is a Blue Ridge PBS television show. So they caught us going wild on camera. But just seeing an event build that way, that was probably the most exciting one that we've had. And it's just incredible how hard folks work to make that happen.
Yeah, that's got to be very sustaining to just see how generous people are, but how their generosity is helping other nonprofits or helping nonprofits do their mission. So that's got to be really cool.
It is really cool, and the website makes it really easy for you to give to multiple organizations at once. It's like you have your little shopping cart, sort of like using Amazon or any other e-commerce website.
Right?
So, you shop and you put in your donations, and it's extraordinary. You will see folks go in there and like all of a sudden all these numbers go up and you're like, what just happened? And someone put 15 organizations in their cart and, spent 3 grand. It's like, it's
Oh, that's
incredible. Yeah, and just seeing how generous folks are, it makes you can look at the news all day long and you should of course stay informed, but it's often the very tough things that are happening in our world. If you want to know where the helpers are, go to this website. These are the
yeah.
helpers.
Oh,
It makes
cool.
me think of Mr. Rogers, like that. He always talked about the helpers. And if folks don't want to give online, you can give by check to your favorite organization. Just send it to them in the mail before noon on June 25th, or drop off the check at their office. You can also, if you have some $20 in your pocket, they accept cash as well for the event, and it will count toward their giving day totals.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Let's talk about the future for CFNRV. Community foundations are designed to operate in perpetuity. As you look ahead to the next decade, what is the North Star for CFNRV?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. We're actually in the middle of creating our new strategic plan. And all of us are sort of like, we're not adding a bunch of new projects, right? Just in a like, already have a lot going on. So we're kind of in that mode. And so right now, part of our growth is thinking strategically about maybe what new staff positions we might add eventually, which is really fun to think about. But every year we get to say, at least for the past few years, this is the most money we've ever given out. It feels really good to know that we can help more folks. We can give out more grants. Our grants aren't huge. We're giving out more, up to $5,000 this year in our competitive grant process, but that's for operating costs. So essentially, the nonprofit can use it wherever they want. You can put it toward your food program, or you can put it toward the light bill and other less fun things, right?
Yep.
Um, so seeing that is really meaningful. And what we try to be is responsive to our community. So when COVID hit, as you might imagine, folks weren't creating a bunch of new programs at that time.
Right.
They were trying to like run their basic services, but also like figure out how to run their basic services when with the all the shutdowns. But of course, the need was great during that time. So we pivoted and stopped giving out only programmatic grants during that time, where you have to say this is the project or the program that the money will go to, right? That what we did was, okay, use this money how you want. You fill out this basic application, put the dollars where you need to, and we help folks keep their doors open. So what I think about is we might not quite know what our North Star is because the community needs and priorities shift. It's not going to be huge shifts over time. Like, I can't imagine in 10 years we will have completely solved housing in our area. It's a big issue for folks.
Yeah.
Although if we have, good for us, that would be wonderful. But we want to stay responsive and nimble to be able to pivot to what the community is looking for. What are our partners telling us? And how can we change what we're doing to meet the moment? We won't change that we give out grants. We won't change that we give out scholarships, but in what other ways can we shift to meet the need? One thing that we're excited about is, the larger our endowment at the community foundation, the more that we have some administrative endowments that pay like specific funds that help pay for our operating costs. And the more that those specific funds grow, the less that we have to fundraise. And we have come so far in sustaining the life of our organization. So while we're helping others build longevity and sustainability into their plan, we're also doing that. So that just feels so good to think about where we're going with our foundation. We're not a huge foundation. You'll hear some foundations in the hundreds of millions, and which is extraordinary. And so, but we're like a maybe medium size, but mighty. And it's just exciting to think about the future and what we'll be able to do with kind of that ethos driving us.
Yeah, that's all very impressive, and something that I myself did not know much about, and so it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Do you have any final thoughts that you would like to leave with our audience?
Sure. I think the New River Valley is so interesting. It is an incredibly collaborative community. Of course, there's competition in some sense of, all the nonprofits are working to fundraise for their missions, but you might not be shocked knowing our community. It's so amazing getting a group of community leaders in the room who are all working in the nonprofit space. So technically kind of competitors, right? All they want to do is share ideas with one another. This is what we do. Do you want to try that? Oh, you need that? Well, we have some extra. Come and get it. It's incredible what we do with our Thrive Food Access Network. We have a listserv, and earlier this year, someone emailed and they had like an extra 500 pounds of lettuce. And everyone was like, we'll take this amount, we'll take this, like, where do we meet? And that food went everywhere across our region. None of it went to waste. So people want to help each other. And it happens in those small and big ways that aren't necessarily going to make headlines of neighbors helping neighbors. But there are so many real pressing issues in our world. There's so much going on, and I think sometimes you can feel overwhelmed and not know where to start to help. But take a look at the Giving Day website. You can make a gift, but what you can also do is just look at what organizations are in our area and see if they need volunteer help. Do you have a special skill set, or do you want to go walk some dogs or haul some mulch or whatever it might be? You can, if you feel overwhelmed by the state of our world, you will feel better by working with one of these organizations. It won't solve everything, but it feels really good and gives you hope for humanity, just because folks are doing such important, great work.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Lindsey, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Same.
For those of you watching this podcast, I hope you receive some pearls of wisdom, and don't forget about Giving Day. I hope you'll join me for the next Mountain Valor podcast coming soon. At Mountain Valor, we believe that rural should never mean unserved. Whether you're a veteran looking for the benefits you earned, a neighbor wanting to volunteer your time, or a donor ready to fund our next mission in the hills of Virginia, or a partner organization, there's a place for you on our team. Visit mountainvalor.org today to donate, join our mission, or get the support your family deserves. Together, we can build the system our rural veterans have always earned, but never had. And again, thank you, Lindsey. The discussion about Giving Day, fascinating, and I hope that you're very successful with that as well.
Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate you taking the time to interview me, and thank you for your service. And to anyone out there who's listening, thank you for your service. And Mountain Valor is a wonderful organization to connect with, so I'm so glad it exists. And just keep on doing the great work you're doing.
Great. Thank you very much.